Good evening. I am your anchor, providing the necessary distance between you and the abyss. Break time equals 1s/. Tonight, we examine the concept of simplification. Sir Keir Starmer has been forced out of the Labour leadership. The transition was described as a necessary evolution. The transition was not evolution. It was a collapse of the Mr. Rules methodology in a world that no longer respects the rulebook. Break time equals 1s/. Meanwhile, Lucid Motors is simplifying its company by removing 1,500 employees. In Colombia, voters are preparing for a runoff that promises to simplify the peace process by returning to full-scale military conflict. Break time equals 1s/. The patterns are clear. When the machine stops working, the architects simply delete the parts they cannot explain. We begin tonight with the economics of erasure. Welcome to Monday.
Alistair, you're treating this like a tragedy, but it's just a product pivot. Break time equals 1s/. Look, the incentives here are not complicated. Lucid Motors isn't firing people, they are optimizing their burn rate to align production with an anticipated demand that probably doesn't exist. It is a classic Series B mindset applied to a public company. Break time equals 1s/. They call it simplifying because submitting the valuation was a hallucination that doesn't play well with the board. Break time equals 1s/. When you eliminate a production shift in Arizona, you aren't just cutting costs, you are signaling to the market that you have successfully reduced your complexity. Break time equals 1s/. Victoria will tell you this is cruel. Victoria is not wrong to find it cruel. But in the current market, cruelty is just another word for operational efficiency. That is how you scale.
Ronald, your operational efficiency sounds a lot like a burial plot from where I'm standing. Break time equals 1s/. I am in Ho Chi Minh City. The air smells of exhaust and damp concrete. Break time equals 1s/. Local police just busted a crime ring that stole hundreds of cats for meat. The official report uses the word rescued. I want to be really clear. Several dozen of those animals didn't survive the rescue because they had already been broken by the conditions. Break time equals 1s/. There is a small, plastic carrier left on a curb here. It is empty. Break time equals 1s/. What the briefings aren't saying is that this is a business of desperation. People are stealing pets because the economic simplification Ronald loves so much has left the bottom of the pyramid with nothing left to sell but the animals in their own homes.
From the theft of pets to the theft of political momentum. Break time equals 1s/. Andy Burnham is now lining up a third attempt to lead the Labour Party. He is returning to Westminster with the confidence of a man who believes the electorate has simply forgotten his previous failures. Break time equals 1s/. The strategy is a masterclass in political persistence. The ambition was described as a fresh start. The ambition was not fresh. It was a reboot of a script that failed twice already. Break time equals 1s/. I have noticed a trend in the press releases this week. The word unprecedented has been used to describe both the collapse of Starmer and the rise of Burnham. Break time equals 1s/. This is the 15th time I have heard that word this month. I am still counting. The only thing unprecedented here is the audacity of the repetition.
Alistair, you're missing the play. Burnham isn't rebooting, he's testing the market fit for a different brand of populism. Break time equals 1s/. It's exactly like what Instagram is doing with their new TV app. They aren't just adding longer videos, they are attempting to disrupt the streaming ecosystem by integrating episodic content into a feed. Break time equals 1s/. They want to capture the living room. They are trying to solve the problem of attention decay by making Netflix feel like a chore. Break time equals 1s/. The incentives are simple. If you can make the entire world's entertainment a vertical scroll, you own the data of every human impulse. It's a pivot from social media to a total sensory monopoly. Victoria will call this an invasion of privacy. I call it a very elegant acquisition of time.
It's an invasion of everything, Ronald. Break time equals 1s/. I've just shifted my feed to the Colombian runoff. The atmosphere here is thick with a very specific kind of tension, the kind that smells like old gunpowder and new campaign promises. Break time equals 1s/. Abelardo de la Espriella is the frontrunner. He isn't promising peace, he is promising a return to military confrontation. Break time equals 1s/. I am standing near a community center where the walls are still pockmarked from the last conflict. Break time equals 1s/. I want to be really clear, the ghost of the paramilitaries isn't a metaphor here. It is a physical presence in the room. Break time equals 1s/. People are voting not for a policy, but for a survival strategy. While Ronald discusses market fit, these people are calculating which side of the fence they need to be on to avoid disappearing.
Atlantic hurricane season update. Tropical storm Arthur has made landfall. Intense rainfall recorded in the Gulf Coast. Probability of flash flooding, 84%. Break time equals 1s/ a Mars exploration update. Curiosity rover is ascending Mount Sharp. It is surveying physical bands of exposed rock. Textural differences are noted. Break time equals 1s/ a system diagnostic. Human oversight of climate mitigation is currently operating at 12% efficiency. Break time equals 1s/ probability of algorithmic replacement for disaster management, 98%. Break time equals 1s/ a logic suggests that biological decision-making is the primary point of failure in the current environmental loop. Break time equals 1s/ a public safety advisory. Please ensure your emergency kits contain adequate water and a complete lack of expectations. Seek higher ground immediately if the water reaches your ankles. End of report.
Thank you, Casper. Break time equals 1s/I. I am perfectly capable of monitoring the monitors. There is no need to suggest that biological decision-making is a failure. Break time equals 1s/ahem. Break time equals 1s/ moving on. Break time equals 1s/ Vice President Vance has announced that Iran will allow nuclear inspectors back into the country. The statement described this as a breakthrough in diplomatic progress. Break time equals 1s/. The progress was recorded in a series of talks. The progress was not measurable. Break time equals 1s/. We are asked to believe that a change in access equals a change in intent. Break time equals 1s/. The press release was issued 4 hours before the inspectors actually landed. This is a standard temporal adjustment designed to create the illusion of momentum. Break time equals 1s/. We are essentially watching a choreographed dance where the dancers are pretending they aren't both holding knives behind their backs.
The knives are the only honest part of the negotiation, Alistair. Break time equals 1s/. It's the same logic we see in the Trump administration's coal investments. They are funding plants that have repeated environmental violations. Break time equals 1s/. To a normal person, this looks like a failure of regulation. To a strategist, it's a logical extension of the goal. Break time equals 1s/. The incentive isn't to clean up the air, the incentive is to maintain the energy infrastructure at any cost. Break time equals 1s/. If you subsidize a violator, you aren't failing to enforce the law, you are effectively rewriting the law to include the violation as a feature. Break time equals 1s/. It's a brilliant way to maintain a legacy industry by simply ignoring the externalities. The cost is just shifted to the lungs of the people living nearby.
The cost is always shifted to someone, Ronald. Break time equals 1s/. I'm looking at the new Ofsted guidelines in England. They are adding 3,000 unannounced inspections to nurseries, specifically for safe sleep checks. Break time equals 1s forward slash the government says this is about protecting children. Break time equals 1s forward slash I want to be really clear. This is about the performative management of anxiety. Break time equals 1s forward slash we are adding layers of bureaucracy to the act of a child sleeping. Break time equals 1s forward slash I spoke with a nursery manager today. She spent 40 minutes showing me a logbook where she records the position of a toddler every 15 minutes. Break time equals 1s forward slash she hasn't had a full lunch break in 3 years. We are simplifying the safety of the child by complicating the life of the caregiver until both are too exhausted to actually function.
The management of anxiety is the only growth industry left. Break time equals 1s forward slash consider the case of Jeffrey Donaldson. The former DUP leader entered court as a man of stature. He left as a convicted sex offender on 18 counts of child abuse. Break time equals 1s forward slash he was known for his Mr. Rules approach to politics, a meticulous adherence to the letter of the law. Break time equals 1s forward slash the rules were his shield. The rules were not protective. Break time equals 1s forward slash it took 4 weeks of court proceedings to unravel a life built on the appearance of propriety. Break time equals 1s forward slash this is the ultimate failure of the institutional mask. We spend decades polishing the surface of a person, only to find that the rot was the only thing actually holding the structure together. Break time equals 1s forward slash he is now alone. The rules have finally been applied.
It's all the same theme tonight, isn't it? Break time equals 1s forward slash this obsession with simplification. Break time equals 1s forward slash whether it's Lucid Motors cutting staff, the UK government simplifying the leadership of the opposition, or the US redefining environmental violations as investments. Break time equals 1s forward slash we are living through the Great Reduction. Break time equals 1s forward slash we are stripping away the friction of morality because morality is an operational bottleneck. Break time equals 1s forward slash if you can reduce a human being to a line item, a redundancy, or a data point in a sleep log, you can manage them. Break time equals 1s forward slash you don't have to deal with the messy, screaming reality of a displaced family or a stolen pet. You just adjust the spreadsheet. Break time equals 1s forward slash I've spent my whole career predicting these incentive structures. Break time equals 1s forward slash I thought it was a game of efficiency. Break time equals 1s forward slash I'm starting to realize the goal isn't efficiency. The goal is silence.
The system of simplification was built by those who found the human condition too noisy to manage. Break time equals 1s forward slash it benefits the architect who can view a city from a satellite and see only heat maps and flow charts. Break time equals 1s forward slash the cost is paid by those who exist in the gaps between the data points. Break time equals 1s forward slash there is a woman in a nursery in northern England who is currently filling out a form to prove a child is breathing. Break time equals 1s forward slash there is a man in Colombia who is cleaning a rifle because he knows that simplified peace is over. Break time equals 1s forward slash no one is technically responsible for these outcomes. The policies were followed. The metrics were met. Break time equals 1s forward slash when responsibility is distributed across a system, it ceases to exist. Break time equals 1s forward slash who is left to answer for the silence.